Hello, you're watching TelecomTV. I'm Martin Warwick and we're reporting from the MPLS, SDN and NFV World Congress here in Paris. One of the great things about this job is we travel around a lot and we make and re-meet a lot of old friends, and I'm with one now, Nicholas Fishback, who is Director of Strategy, Architecture and Innovation at Colt. Nicholas, great to see you again.
Great to see you again too.
Thanks for talking to us. Now, we're at this really quite geeky, quite techie event here, very much on the nuts and bolts of MPLS, SDN and NFV. You gave a keynote speech here on Colt's behalf. What was it about?
It was very much connecting what you mentioned, the bolts and the commercial wrap. For many years, we've been pioneering, when it comes to SDN and NFV, and it was a lot of under the hood work. Virtual CPE, automation in the carrier environment. It's something customers benefited from, but they couldn't really see it or interact with it. It was kind of hidden from them. And what I presented is what we call Colt on demand, or internally Novitas, which is really the commercial and the visual wrap around this. So the customers can really use all those features online through portal APIs in a complete on-demand self-service manner. And it gives them near real-time control over their assets, their networks, their services, and they can change them, order them, build them whenever they like, wherever they like it. And that's really the first time we expose services in such amount to customers. And it is quite a change from ordering something on paper, having to wait for a very long time, not being very flexible, having to adjust it, go through modification orders. All of that is kind of gone away for a number of our services. And the customer feedback has been, fantastic. We're actually kind of slowing down on accepting new customers. They all want to trial it. Everybody wants to get on it. So I have to say it's very much a success story for us. Lots of learnings. It hasn't been easy, but it's a great journey so far.
But it's very interesting that people are clamoring to get at it. You say it's not been a particularly easy journey, but obviously it's working. Were there any particular pitfalls that you came across while you were doing this, or was it as expected?
Oh no, we had a clear vision, a clear view how we want to get there. We knew it was a shift from being more of an OTT type player. That's the way customers want to consume services today too from their service providers. It meant that we have to become much more agile, so moving away from this waterfall development cycle. It also meant that we had to rethink our portfolio, because you cannot just carry forward the same legacy and all the fancy features and everything. So it's really, rethinking from the ground up the way you build services, the way you evolve them, the way you operate them, and you're actually, putting the customer at the forefront. So it's all about how you combine technology to deliver a different customer experience. But no, it wasn't easy. Clearly, it wasn't easy. It's been a long journey.
Well, we're getting there.
We are.
It's interesting too that one of the subjects for discussion here, and I've spoken to a lot of people about it, is the notion of whether or not SDN and NFV will make MPLS redundant. I'm going to ask you that question, but before I do, I'm going to tell you the general perception seems to be that no, it isn't. Are you in that same camp?
Oh yeah, clearly, that's what we've been saying for quite some time. MPLS is clearly here to stay. It's not going to go away. It is very much about augmenting MPLS and building on top of it. It's true in the carrier Ethernet environment. It is true for IP-based services like IP VPNs. This foundation is there. It's rock solid. We know how to operate it. We have the right tooling. We know that we need to deliver different services, different propositions, and we're doing that on top of MPLS by augmenting MPLS, by orchestrating MPLS differently, by adding software layers on top of that. I think clearly there's a trend in the industry for software-defined VPN, software-defined WAN. People seem to think that this private wire connectivity when it comes to MPLS is going to go away. I think the internet-based model is going to complement what we have today, and people will be able to choose, either guaranteed services, internet-based. Internet's become much better, and there's going to be a nice mix and match. And what we also believe is that people will want to continue, especially in our space, we're in the business-to-business space, the large enterprise space. They want to continue to buy managed services. People seem to think, we'll build it ourselves. I think they realize the same pitfalls. And it's not easy to be a service provider. Everybody thinks you can just turn something up, connect it to the internet. It's going to create a nice network. The reality is, they want, a support wrap around it. They want a NOC to call. They want somebody to call when something goes wrong. They don't want to manage CPEs. They don't want to manage, remote sites. They don't want to manage a backbone. They will continue to work with us. So it is for us an opportunity to evolve the IPVPN product offering, for example, we had to have this software-defined WAN capability to it. That's clearly where we're going.
Good stuff. Now, let's move on to NFV and the concept of openness which comes along with it. Now then, Colt's a service provider, and you are subject to constant bombardment from the blandishments of the manufacturers and the vendors who want to sell you things. Service providers, when NFV was first mooted, service providers said, yeah, we quite like the look of this technology. It looks like it's going to be important. It looks like it could make us some money down the line, but there's a lot to think about. We don't want to be locked into a particular vendor or manufacturer anymore. Thank you very much. We've learned the hard way. We don't want to do that. So we would prefer it to be open. And so the manufacturers and vendors say, yeah, okay, we'll be open then. And the result has been this explosion in the number of ecosystems that are out there. Just it's getting, now that sort of people say there seems to be a new one every week. And the service providers, such as you and others I've spoken to, are getting a bit confused and a bit wary of this, because it's evident that not all of these ecosystems are going to survive. There will be consolidation in due course. But the other thing that service providers, again like you, feel is, well, look, these ecosystems are supposed to be different, but they've all got the same members. Whether it's way over there or in the middle, it's all the same people and the same companies in each of these ecosystems, trying for everything. Given that, how do you as a service provider go about choosing a transformation partner?
It's not easy. I think you touched on I think half a dozen key points in what you just introduced. I think in the keynote I mentioned the same. We saw this explosion when NFV started 3 years ago, and it's still in expansion phase. You still heading, and then what I've been asking for is actually consolidation, as you mentioned. We need to start to funnel, channel, compress all those ecosystems, all those options. I think we've started to see it on the vendor side. There's been quite a few merger and acquisitions lately. So I think there's also less vendors to talk to now. There's concentration there. I think on the various options and working groups and industry forums, it's still also an expansion phase. I think what we see nowadays is we'll just go ahead and deploy something, not waiting for all the reference architectures to be completely finalized. Look at the favorite example is I think the Mano stack when it comes to NFV, at Etsy and so on. I think we have to become very pragmatic. I think this morning was a presentation about the lessons learned for virtual CPE on top of OpenStack. It's 1 year in. A lot of the things have been fixed. There's alternatives and mitigation, but still, it's not there yet. We are not yet at the point where it's what people call carrier grade. So that's kind of 1 point. So I think on the whole compute side of the house, the compute stack, there's still a lot to be resolved there. That is also making I think our life complicated as well as the vendor's life very complicated. And the ecosystem is still I think all over the place. We've been trying for quite some time now to draw some sort of a heat map. And you see that, as you mentioned, everything is kind of overlapping somewhere, somehow, and you're like, okay, if you pick this one, how do we mix and match it with different ones? So this approach where, open suggests that you can easily rip and replace, choose best of breed. There's so much linkage still between the various solutions, various models, also in the OSS environments that we're not there yet. And we know we need to build something. We're taking stuff forward. There's also service providers that present in the last 2 days that have gone to market with very similar solutions. But talking kind of offline, they all run into the same kind of pitfalls, limitations, big questions. How do we build this to make it actually work and scale? So I don't think we're there yet, but we're really at the point. I think also sensing it from the vendors that they need to see revenue. Exactly. I think everybody's pushing them hard for revenue, and I think, as you mentioned too, it's like there's still a lot of POCs going on, and I think one thing that can help too is there's this new IP agency which has been formed originally by the light reading guys. I think that could help. I think we really need some reference models, some interop testing. It will make our life easier too, because as I mentioned also in my keynote, all the architects and all the service providers run into the same pitfalls. We all repeat the same testing over and over again. Sure. And I think it's an opportunity also for vendors, to make their life easier, because they will do it once or twice, but not 20 or 50 times. Interesting.
Good answer too. You mentioned halfway through that, Nicholas, the fact that it's three and a bit years now since NFV burst upon the scene, and it was regarded as being potentially a world-changing event, literally, and world-changing technology. And again, we've touched on what's happening now. A lot of people are saying, a lot of SPs are saying that we seem to be stuck now. We're not quite sure what's going on. What do you think is preventing service providers from making a move from the lab to reality? How long will it be before we actually see, and I don't just mean in one particular country, one particular area or region or anything like that, but real commercial use cases over a wide area, half the world or whatever?
Yeah, I think we're slowly getting there. For me, the virtual CPU was the key use case. That's the one we've been pushing very hard for very long.
Yep.
This one made a lot of sense. I think software-defined VPNs or different one is the next one, where there's a real use case, there's a real demand from customers. I think all the other ones, again, look at firewall and others, are very much, this type of under the hood, network hygiene stuff that you need to have in your portfolio. So I think SD1 is probably the next one driving this space. Issues, they are still, technical front, so the compute stack, the man OSS environment is still overly complicated, how you orchestrate the whole thing, and the commercial models. I think people, again, things I talked about 2 or 3 years ago, if you look at the TCO of NFV today, you start adding so many small piles of things, and in the end, this small pile becomes, quite big, and in the end, it doesn't work anymore. So there's, I think, a lot of things have happened there. I think a lot of the vendors understand their cost models much better, so the pricing, is much more, adapted to what we're looking for. But you still have to look at the end-to-end model when it comes to the compute environment, the network elements, your operations, and so on. But I think we're slowly getting there, and I think a lot of the service providers realize that the model we've been following is try to get it out there, get customer feedback, see what it works. It might not be perfect, but you learn from it. And I've seen that from two or three service providers also in the last 2 days. They're taking it out. They are saying in public, it's not perfect, but we want to get customer feedback. We want to learn from it and then see how we want to build it. But I think it's getting there. And in the end, SDN, 5 years oldish roughly, has turned into automation. Right? It's all about automation. A lot of the other promises from SDN, kind of became secondary. NFV 3 years in. As I said, still in expansion phase. We need to get over those teasing issues. We see many teasing issues still. I think once we can put those behind us, you will see many more live services.
What about, Nicholas? What about wireless and 5G and the evolution to 5G? Where does NFV play into that?
I think it is very much this virtual EPC. So we are wireline. Service provider, but what we see, the use case we commonly see is the virtual EPC element. I think with 5G, we'll also start to see maybe NFV much more at the edge, at the base station level, because people want multi-tenant base station. Everybody doesn't want to build their own radio infrastructure anymore. So that's where we're going to see it. But it is still very early days. And when you look at the specs, and what the GSMA wants from a 5G network and the latency and performance requirements, it is becoming very difficult to do NFV, service chaining, and so on. You will have to make, I think, as a mobile operator, pretty hard calls on what you want to do. If you want to set up a call in milliseconds, if you have to identify the phone, authenticate the phone, get the reservation done, everything end to end. So I think that piece is going to be pretty challenging, and we'll have to see how they kind of make the good mix between hardware elements and software elements, service chaining, and having stuff at the edge, having stuff in data centers when you are Cloud RAN, 4G, 5G, and so on. It's going to be an interesting environment. I think we'll see a lot of developments happening there.
Good stuff as usual. Nicholas Fischbach, thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure. Thank you very much too.